All right, we are going to call this meeting to order. It is 6:30 p.m. Monday, November 18th, and we do have a quorum. Microphones are live and pick up even heavy breathing in the back row, so please pay attention. First up, we have a discussion of the consent and regular agenda items. Let's see here. We're going to have easement and right-of-way acquisition here with Mr. Salmon. I've got presentation with Councilmember Green. I've got flags and pledges with Councilmember Kelly. We've got 3 proclamations. Item D1, public hearing, ordinance for an SUP for gasoline service station.
Mayor,
it's extension of Sam's Club.
And Mayor, we actually have the project engineer here who, out in open, will be showing just traffic flow in case there's any concerns about how
that'd be lovely, because that definitely needs a good looking at. All right, and that'll be Mr. Alvarez from Kimley Horn. Super. Any other questions on D1? D2, public hearing, consideration of an ordinance granting a zone change from AO to LI. Any questions on that one out in Holford's Prairie?
I'm assuming there is nobody from the housing behind it that raised any concerns at all? We didn't hear anything from anybody?
We have item F3, approval of minutes. Item F4, 5-year lease agreement with APG Properties for the health clinic.
I have a quick question about that. Is 5 years common? I know anytime I get more than 3, I get my hands sweat as a business owner.
Yes, so it's actually not a normal common thing, but we got such a good deal from this property owner that, and this was a take it or leave it offer from them. And at the end of the day, we spent the last 10 years, the location is prime and the costs aren't going up per year. So the risk is low. So
okay.
I gave the authorization to move forward with 5 years.
That helps.
Item 5, change order for advanced funding with TxDOT. It's to get the words "Fighting Farmers Way" on the face of the bridge in both directions. It's a beautiful piece of documentation. Very impressed. Item 6, I will be abstaining, so I'm going to ask to pull item 6. John is a colleague. He was part of the Dancing with the Stars last year, so I just feel it's being appropriate for me to be on the dais on this one. Item 7, approval of the First Amendment for professional services between Marathon Health and the city.
So this is just kind of a procedural deal, so we don't have to do this again, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we need to pull 6.
We just need to pull 6. So Councilmember Kelly has the agenda item to take over on that one. Item 6, approval of an economic development agreement. Oh, there it is. I can't read 6. That's my page. Oh, I see what's happened. They pulled it out and printed it separate, so okay. Item G8, bid award for construction services for West College Street paving and utilities and Mill Street parking.
I will be recusing myself from this one.
Any questions on G8? Reports, workshop, and we do have closed session tonight. All right, with that, we're going to move on to workshop item B, easement and right-of-way acquisition. Mr. David Summon, our city engineer.
Good evening. Good evening. We wanted to visit with council this evening about our easement and right-of-way acquisition process. We've got a couple of projects coming up where we're going to be asking the council to give us permission to start acquiring property. And the last time we did this, there were some questions that were raised about our process. So we just thought this was a good point to just have a quick overview of what our process is. first I'm going to cover eminent domain. I'm just going to do a very high-level view of what that process looks like. And then I'm going to cover the landowner's bill of rights, which is a document that we give the homeowners and property owners when we make offers. And then we'll get into the meat of the presentation this evening, our actual acquisition process. So eminent domain, we're kind of covering this backwards because typically this is the very end of our right-of-way acquisition process. But we thought we wanted to cover this very briefly at the beginning. Eminent domain really starts with the final offer. And if that final offer is not accepted, then the city is typically going to file a petition to start eminent domain proceedings. With that petition, the judge has, within 30 days, the judge has to appoint a special commissioners, and basically they're disinterested property owners that reside in the county, and the judge also allows both parties, whether it's the city or the landowner, to strike a commissioner, so there's fairness in that. The commissioners set a hearing date, which is no earlier than 20 days after the date they're appointed, and then notice is served to the landowner within 20 days prior to the hearing. There are some cases where we can't find the property owner, but there's some extenuating circumstance, and instead of sending notices to the property owner, we actually notice by publication.
Can I ask a question about that real quick? So, can you go back one? So, let's see. When a hearing comes, I'm assuming who represents the city? Is this going to be Liz? Is somebody from Liz's office?
Right, and typically there's an outside counsel.
Then who represents the landowner? Are they themselves? They have to go by counsel?
But themselves, or oftentimes they have their own lawyers.
All right, thank you.
Of course, at that point, the hearing is held. Both the landowner and the city argue their cases. Commissioners make a ruling on the value of the property, and then that ruling is filed with the court, and the clerk of court sends notice of the decision by a certified mail. At that point, the city deposits the award into the registry of the court and then takes possession of the property. So at that point, once we've done that, we can move on with our project and take possession and start construction. Also, at the same time, the landowner, they can either take the money but if they do, they forfeit their right to challenge the validity of the taking, but they can still challenge the amount of the compensation at that point. Either party can object to the commissioner's award. The objection must be in writing and filed with the court, if there is an objection, the appeal process goes on during the construction. So construction's already going at that point, and the appeal may continue for some time after that. So really at that point, it becomes an issue of how much money are we going to pay for the property. We already have it, we just don't know what the bottom line is. So on to the landowner's bill of rights. This is a copy of the cover sheet that comes on that document. And again, this is a document that we have to hand property owners when we make an offer. The document is created by the Texas Attorney General's office, and it outlines the landowner's rights and the general process of eminent domain. Before or at the same time that we make representation to the landowner that we have eminent domain authority, we must provide this document to that landowner. So, once we come to the city council with get authorization to obtain the property, which includes negotiation all the way up through eminent domain. Once we go through that process with the council, and then we have that authority, at that point, anytime we make an offer, we have to provide this document. The landowner's bill of rights covers a whole several topics. It basically walks the property owner through the eminent domain process. It tells them where they can get help. It explains public purpose and use, compensation, other compensation. Oftentimes, we not only have to pay for the easement itself, but sometimes by taking that easement, it actually creates some damage to the remainder of the property. So that's always calculated into the total cost. So this is to let them know that there could be damages to the remainder of the property that the city's going to have to pay. Talks about obligations of the condemner and about objecting to an offer. It covers the special commissioners hearing, tells them all about what, all the requirements for the commissioners, their limitations, who can be a commissioner, how to object to a commissioner, and again, our obligations as a condemner. It explains objecting to the commissioner's award, how to object, what happens when you object, who pays for the trial, and then what happens after the trial. Sometimes dismissal of a condemnation action can occur. The condemning agency can decide not to condemn. A landowner and again, going back to one of the earlier slides, if they don't take the award from the court and leave it in there, they can actually challenge the agency's right to condemn. And then, of course, if we go through the process and the city obtains the property and we don't use it for 10 years, there's an avenue for the property owner to get that property back. So now, and I know this is, I debated on whether to try to put this on multiple slides, and it didn't make sense, and now I tried to, so it's all on one slide, but I'll kind of walk us through it. And this is actually a flow chart that explains the City of Lewisville's process for going through the acquisition process, and this is specific to public infrastructure projects. The process is a little bit differently for projects where we're building a building or buying a piece of property, fee simple for a facility or a park.
Can I add one thing there? So just to clarify, so like for public infrastructure projects, we're talking about projects that you guys may be on your bond program. It might be on capital projects we know are going to happen. They're coming forward. So we know these are things that council has directed us to move forward with. But on top of that, and Dave is going to just go through the process in a little bit, but once we get to that negotiation, I just want to remind you in your head, we are doing far more than what the state requires of going back and forth. So, the negotiations of your first offer to your second offer, which is your final offer, basically, we may have.
Well, sometimes we have more than 2 offers.
We may have like 10 offers or, 11, 12, whatever it comes to, trying to get to that end where we're negotiating with them. So just realize that we're coming to you to just educate you on this, but also noting that we're going to be putting this into a standard operating procedure for the department going forward, so that it becomes very understandable that we are trying to work with the owner and try to do a friendly acquisition before we ever pull the eminent domain option.
I had a really quick question about that too. When we present the final offer, I assume we tell them this is the final offer before we don't just give them 2 and then be like, oh, eminent domain.
Yes.
Okay.
Right. Well, and typically with the final offer, and we'll get into this in a few minutes, but with a final offer, especially if it's the final offer before going into eminent domain, a lot of the things that we negotiate up front go away if we have to go to eminent domain. Some of the special conditions we've negotiated, some of the special easement language that we've negotiated, when we end up going to eminent domain, we go back to our standard easement documents. So we explain all that when we make that final offer.
Okay.
So on this flow chart, we start with the red box, and we always try to end up here down the bottom corner of the green box. And then the other thing I wanted to mention is that if we've got a easement or a parcel where it's going to cause someone to have to move or relocate, that's an entirely separate process that we have to go through, and it runs parallel to our right-of-way and easement acquisition. So on those parcels where either somebody has to move out of their house or where they have to relocate their business, there's a whole process on how to do that, and it's all steeped in state law that we have to follow step by step to do that. So again, starting here at the red box, we typically start our easement and right-of-way acquisition once the project is 60% designed. At that point, we're far enough along that people can look at the plans and see what we're proposing. At that point in the process, we've already engaged property owners either through getting access to survey their property, and in a lot of cases, we've already had our first public information meeting about the project with residents. So by the time we get here, the people who are being affected know that there's a project, on their street or in their area. So at that point, at the 60% design, we identify those owners that we know we're going to have to get right-of-way from, because again, at this point, we know what the right-of-way needs are. Prepare legal descriptions and exhibits. And then at that point is when we typically prepare a resolution to bring to the city council. And then we come to city council. Now, that resolution authorizes staff to obtain property for the project, whether that be negotiation or last case scenario, eminent domain. Once staff has that authority to get property for our project, we make a decision based on the size of the project and how many parcels and how complicated it's going to be, whether or not we're going to use a right-of-way acquisition consultant. And but whether staff does it or whether the right-of-way acquisition consultant does the process, it's all the same. It's just a difference of who's actually doing the process. And at that point, we start calculating property values. Now, we deal with a lot of parcels on our street projects and utility projects that are very tiny sometimes. If a parcel is under 200 square feet, oftentimes we ask the property owner if they're willing to donate the parcel. And sometimes they do, surprisingly. But if they don't, that's okay, obviously, as well. But so small parcels, rather than paying for an appraisal, we'll start out with asking for donation, and if that's not acceptable, then we'll take a look at the DCAD value and make an offer based on a DCAD value. And again, we're talking about parcels that are under 200 square feet, so the parcels themselves, may be worth anywhere from several $100 to maybe a couple $1,000. So that's why we try to avoid those appraisals, because an appraisal will cost at a minimum $200 or $2,500. On the larger parcels, or where we think it's going to be a fee simple purchase, or if we know that we're going to have some difficulty with the property owner, we just jump straight into an appraisal. And then, so once that property value is determined, either by appraisal or DCAD, we make that first offer. And of course, at this point, we've already got the city council's okay to move forward with the acquisition. So we're handing them that landowner's bill of rights at that point.
Can I pause for a second? Why that's important is because From that point, when we hand over that landowner's Bill of Rights, we're already working on a process that allows us to move. Ultimately, all of this work will go, if we can't come to an agreement, we can pull the trigger and do eminent domain at the end of the day. Otherwise, we would end up having to redo this process if we don't follow the rules exactly. So that's why the order of things become very important.
And of course, they either accept the offer or they don't. Of course, if they accept the offer, then we process payment to the property owner, and then we file the easement at Denton County. If they don't, that's when we start negotiation. At this point, negotiation, I mean, sometimes the property owner has an alternate appraisal that they want to present. Oftentimes, we look at additional comps if we can't come to terms on a price. Sometimes the homeowner or the property owner comes back with a counter offer that we can consider. Sometimes we revise the plans. Oftentimes, the property owner says, well, if you widen my driveway by 5 feet, I'll accept the offer if you widen my driveway or you move my fence. Sometimes we decide to change the plans to reduce the size of the easement. For an example, on Corporate Drive, we wanted to reduce the size of the slope easement, so we added some additional retaining wall so that would reduce the size of some of the slope easements. So there's things we do and sometimes we deal with the easement language, as I mentioned earlier. Sometimes property owners want a little bit different easement language than our standard documents. So we work with property owners on that as well. Once we take all that into account, we make a counter offer. Of course, they either accept or they don't. And then, of course, if they don't, then we decide whether or not we want to continue negotiating, depending on where we are, how far apart we are. But this is the circle that the city manager was talking about, was we can go around this circle making counter offers and several times. I would say on average we go around that circle 2 to 3 times, and often it's much more than that. So we continue to work with that property owner as long as we feel that we're making progress and that we're slowly meeting somewhere in the middle. We'll continue to go around that circle. Of course, at some point, either we're too far apart, or we know we're not going to get there, or it's just taking too long and we can't come to terms. It's at that point.
David, I just wanted to make a quick point, because this is something that I didn't realize was part of the process until I went through it myself. There's a third party in all of these discussions as well, which is if it's someone's home, they have a mortgage. If they have a mortgage, the mortgage company is in on all of this too. So this is not always about a property owner that's being unreasonable. It could be about a mortgage company that's being unreasonable. It could be a mortgage company that is being very unresponsive. So that is another reason why this whole process can take a long time.
We're down to about 5 minutes,
Sorry.
so just to give everybody.
Yeah, that is a good point, because that happens. I mean, the mortgage company has to sign the easement document, so there you go. But we're coming here to the end, so at that point, if we can't come to terms, we're too far apart, or it's just taking way too much time, or the property owner has become non-responsive, at that point, we make that final offer. We initiate, and again, we make that final offer. They have one more chance to either take it or leave it. And at that point, we initiate eminent domain, which is the process we talked about a little bit earlier. So at that point, I'm going to turn it back over to Claire.
I have some questions, actually, from that. Can you go back a slide, please? So that fourth blue box up there, it says obtain city council approval. This is an agenda item, right? This is we go through this open meetings agenda item. Do we make any attempt? We met with the public in the red box over there, so they know something's coming. Best of all worlds, they're watching the agenda to see if it pops up. Can we notify the affected parties, or the people we think will be affected, that we have a council meeting coming up? Here's what I want to avoid: is somebody seeing that coming up, addressing us during public comment. Now I can't engage them because it's not decide a specific agenda item? Or do I have the right to engage them because it's on the agenda?
So if it's on an agenda, like people can show up and you can talk through anyone who shows up.
Okay.
I think, make sure I'm asking, you're just asking if people can show up and you can talk to them. Is that what you're asking? Yes.
Okay. And is there a reason why we don't, or are we notifying?
We don't, we provide the notice as required by law. So really everything is, because it's so highly regulated, we do everything by law, by the state. The one thing we do that's more restrictive on ourselves is how many times we go through that loop on the back end. There are, I think your question is whether or not we can over notice and provide more notice for those property owners. I think that there is some consequences that may come along with that. We could do that. My recommendation would not be to do that, to comply with the law as it sets. But let me walk through some of those concerns. So, and I don't, yeah, we have enough time. So, one of them, we know that this is an infrastructure project that we're moving forward. This is on a bond program or something like that. David, by the time we get to 60% design, the instructions to all engineers, as you would know, is that, we're going to try to find the most efficient way to proceed with this process, the project. We're going to, not try to take as many properties as possible. In fact, we want to reduce down those costs as much as possible. So in those situations, you could end up having, and we don't have the appraisals yet. So you could have people, you may end up creating more concern than really needs to be because the negotiations, working with the developer, or not the developer, working with the property owner comes later. But you may have people that bring great concern or may just be against the project. The worst case scenario from a staff perspective is that someone shows up, is really angry about it, and council directs us to go back and redesign the project. We could end up in a loop of redesign. So we redesign, now we have 2 or 3 more property owners that are now affected. And now we come back and does council tell us to redesign again? The best case scenario is we move forward and that negotiation happens in this process the way the state has directed it to happen. My preference is to keep it the way it is, and really the hope was to have that touch point today with you guys where we are giving you the assurance that we're going to put this process, which is more restrictive than what the state says, to put into a standard operating procedure to make sure you guys are comfortable with it. But ultimately, we are going to be bringing you guys future ordinances, and I wanted to make sure I had this touch point that we're all on the same page to move forward before we did that.
I do appreciate the detail. I would submit that if 4 council members can be convinced that it's the wrong thing to do at box 4, then that's probably what we should be doing, is not doing that, redesign it. That'd be what I would submit as a rebuttal to that concern. But it seems like with every box we get further down the pipeline, the more expensive it becomes to go back to the redesign process. So I would also submit that having that happen earlier in the process is better than, well, now we're 3/4 through this process, then we got to go redesign.
I think the hard part on that, though, is when you end up redesigning in the front end, none of the other acquisitions are happening. So everything gets put on pause while we're redesigning, and then if we end up affecting more people in that, I think later on, everything's moving tangentially together in a forward direction, and we're getting to the end more efficiently, but then still working with those property owners.
I respect the concern, I really do. But I'm going to come back again and assert that if somebody can make such a compelling case to sway 4 council members, that's where it should happen, is up front. So that I would like to have, I'd like to see notice go out. That'd be my one tweak to this process. That's just me. I put that for discussion.
Council, I've got another minute or 2. If anybody has any input, we're going to see this again.
We can come back if you want after this, if you'd like.
Well, let's do that. Let's go ahead and take, we got 2 minutes before we need to get out here. So we'll go ahead and put this on pause for a moment. We'll come back to this room after we've done the pledges, and we'll go from there. Good evening. We're going to call this meeting of the Lewisville City Council regular session to order. We do have a quorum. First thing on our agenda tonight is the invocation with Councilmember Kristen Green.
Please stand with me and join me for a moment of quiet contemplation before we start the meeting. Amen. Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem Kelly.
Please join me in the pledges. The pledge of
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible.
We are going to go reconvene back into workshop, so council, if you wouldn't mind, we'll circle back and just button down the last couple of things we need to do in the workshop, and then we will return momentarily. All right, well, let's go ahead and work back through this. Council, any other comments, questions, concerns about the process? What you like, what you don't like?
Well, I mean, just to follow up with what Patrick is saying, there is some sort of notice that there is going to be some type of public infrastructure project on, let's say it's your street. So we may not notice individual property owners that this is a maybe, we might have to, right? So, and I guess what you're saying is that you think we should start doing that at 60% design.
Right, so clearly it's already been noticed because there's a public meeting that's going on, right? The red box, if I understand correctly, there's a public meeting, the potentially affected people are going to be noticed there.
Well, yeah, and at that point, I'm talking about a broad, notice that everybody on the street is going to know that they're already going to know we're out there designing the project.
Right. So now that's a community input meeting in the red box, or is that just
Right,
a
community input meeting.
How are they being noticed?
Plus, we have to get permission to survey.
Okay. Now is that through some sort of letter? Is that in the water bill? How's that happening?
Either provided by the surveyor or sometimes the city.
Okay. So, and I was looking for, in addition to that, say, hey, it's going to be on the agenda whenever that fourth blue box comes over. That's the enhancement I was looking for. I understand that they've been noticed once, and I understand that, okay, if it's a big deal for you, you should be watching the agendas. Say, sometime in the next 2 months, it's now on me to watch the agendas. I'd rather err on the side of over-communicating that. It's taking somebody's property is such a big deal to me that I would rather over-communicate that.
I'm not quite sure that we know, though, at that stage, because even when it does show up on our agenda, if what I'm recalling, the way it has gone in the past, and maybe I'm wrong because it's been a minute since we've done one, that it's kind of a broad stroke where we give authorization to start the process if needed, but we don't already know exactly which properties, do we?
We do.
We do, okay. And we know the actual extent of what we're going to need and everything?
The right-of-way and these are the parcels and the legal descriptions and the exhibits are all attached to that resolution.
Do we have an idea of what type of, because I'll say for me personally, when this happened in my street, I was so excited that the project was happening. And I have to imagine I'm not the only one where people are like, yes, we've needed a sidewalk on this side of the street for forever. Yes, I'm willing to give a little extra to make that happen. What kind of percentage do we have of people happy and okay with it versus the pushback that we get? Non-mortgage company related pushback.
I mean, if you take mortgage companies out of the equation, most of the time we really don't have problems. I mean, like I said, especially on a project like College Street, a lot of those are little triangles, little corner clips. A lot of times people donate those. Sometimes they want to be paid, and that's fine. Well, I would say more times than not, they're happy with the DCAD value, calculated based off the DCAD value. We do very few, since I've been here, we've done very few eminent domain processes.
I guess I hear what you're saying. At the same time, I also hear what Claire is saying, and I don't want to create a process that's so onerous for the staff that really it ends up causing a bunch of work for no reason. Maybe just somewhere in between.
So let me ask this question. So I hear you, which is Baltimore, that I would like to push that as far up front as possible. Because the farther it gets along this, the harder it becomes to unring that bell once that process, once that train leaves the station, it gets harder and harder to stop. So what I'm hearing is, hardly ever does anybody complain. Therefore, the risk is very, very low that anybody's gonna come up and try to persuade 4 council members to pull the plug on it. So that's a very low risk. So talk to me about the hurdle for sending out notification that we have a council meeting coming up. Is this a expensive process, a time-consuming process? What would be the hurdle to happen?
I mean, there's some financial to it. I don't think it's significant. I mean, I don't know the largest amount of acquisitions we've had on our project is probably corporate drive, I would imagine, but.
Well, yeah, I mean, of course, at that point, we already know who the owners are and what their addresses are. And
Yeah, so from a financial standpoint, I don't think that's it. I think it's really just, we don't have the appraisals done yet. So it's kind of it's coming in with half information, but it is on an agenda. I guess the issue is going to be you have someone who shows up who's against the project and who is, or just does not want their property taken at all. If, I would say 99% of the time, you're going to still say go forward with it. And so there's that issue as well.
I mean, this is public infrastructure, right? So we're talking about.
This is not a nice to
It's
have.
it has to be all public.
It has to go through. It has to go through there. So the public information meeting is done per law, right? So basically, we're doing another meeting just for what we've already done in a meeting to start with, correct? Basically.
Say that again, I'm sorry.
So we're doing a public information meeting at the
Yes.
start. So
Yes.
I'm not sure I understand the point of bringing the meeting, another meeting to the council.
That was already on the council agenda.
No, he's saying he just wants to notice individually the property
Hey, we're not talking about
owners.
this at this meeting. It's already on the agenda.
So-
It's a mailer is what I'm asking for.
But I think what the point that you're making about we don't know what the appraisals are going to be, and that's the part where I get nervous that if I don't want to call people to the council meeting if we don't have all the answers to their questions, and that's the biggest one they're going to have. What's the value? What are you going to give me for this? And so I have a feeling that it makes me nervous because it makes me feel like we're creating a likelihood of having friction, because don't tell me you're going to take it unless you're going to tell me what you're going to give me for it.
So I understand that. I would then submit that at any point from that flow forward, somebody shows up at a council meeting to speak during open comment, then I will make a motion that we put that on the agenda for next time so we can talk about it. Then I'll have to get support to make that happen. But that's fine. But if somebody shows up to talk about it, I want to be able to engage that person. They're going to have public record out there, and I want to make sure we can engage them in a knowledgeable fashion from the dais. And I can't do that except for that one box way at the beginning.
Yeah, so, I mean, typically to put anything on the agenda, you have the mayor and 2 council members, but yeah, I'm sure you would have some.
Doubt that that's going to be an issue.
Yeah,
I think the chart allows me to make a motion right there when that happens. I'd have to go back and look, but
I don't know if it would be a motion, but you could just, I don't think you can make a motion at that time. But we can look into that. I'm not sure.
But just to, if this comes through council says yes, move forward, and then down the line, somebody wants to reach out to one of us individually, we can engage with them individually.
sure.
We
Just not in a visitor's
Right,
forum.
that's right.
Right.
Not a matter of
So
right.
so it's not one of those things where we can't still engage with them and ask staff to work with them.
But
I will say
I'm
that-
still not going to be engaging with them in an open council meeting regarding a land acquisition and prices and stuff.
Well, I don't know what they're going to be talking about, but I'd like to be able to have a conversation.
What I'm hearing is we feel like there's enough safeguards to keep the process as it is.
Yeah.
It's worked for decades.
Patrick, I
But
think you feel
I
more
still
comfortable
feel
that you can engage
that-
them. Just
So I want to leave the room with the right impression. This does not make me super uncomfortable. I would be more comfortable with a letter going out. That's all I'm saying. So there's nothing about this I go, oh my God, I can't sleep tonight because we're doing something devious. It feels a little disingenuous to say, well, we don't want to be as public as possible because we don't want somebody to make a fuss at the beginning. That's now where we have a transparency issue. We're hoping it flies under the radar.
How do they find out about the first meeting, though? Is that a
Signs in the neighborhood.
So the first, so signs in the neighborhood and letters. So I was gonna suggest for that, because they know that this project is coming, they may just not know what extent on their property. I mean, we can make sure to do communication on the front end going, this is going to be going to a council meeting in the next 60 days likely. You know, this may affect your property. This is how you can check for online. You know.
I like that.
Exactly.
That's a nice compromise. I like that. I
Yeah.
can do
Okay,
that.
that's easy. That's
I like that a lot.
Okay. Okay, thank you. I like
I
that.
like that a lot.
Any other discussion? You got adequate direction?
We will have two coming to you in the near future.
Okay. Report, Madam Chair. All right, good evening, and thank you for your patience. We have a couple of proclamations, actually three. So first up tonight, I have our proclamation regarding hunger and homelessness awareness. Who's my team coming up for this? Here we go. Welcome, welcome. And you're going to use the microphone after me, right?
Of course.
Perfect. Oh, we've got our friends from CCA.
And the turbo beef. Oh, anywhere, whichever one you decide.
Just stand directly behind me in rabbit ears. Usually everybody does rabbit ears. It's perfect.
Do that.
So. All right, so we have our friends here from CCA and, of course, our staff who deal with this area. But this is Homelessness and Hunger Awareness Week. We have a proclamation. So whereas Hunger and Homelessness Awareness Week is recognized with the purpose of educating the public on the current state of hunger and homelessness in our community, and whereas the City of Lewisville recognizes the need to address gaps in existing systems, as there are currently over 114,000 individuals living in Denton County experiencing food insecurity, 8.4% of Lewisville residents were experiencing poverty as of July 2023, and there is a need for an additional 4,598 affordable housing units in Lewisville available for households earning below 50% of the area median income. Whereas many organizations are dedicated to addressing food insecurity and supporting those facing housing or food crises, including Boys and Girls Club of Greater Tarrant County, Christian Community Action, Denton County Friends of the Family, Journey to Dream, Metro Relief SPAN, the Salvation Army, and United Way of Denton County. And whereas the City of Lewisville will continue efforts to create and preserve affordable housing and support social service providers to minimize hunger and homelessness in our community. Now, therefore, I, T.J. Gilmore, Mayor of the City of Lewisville, and on behalf of the Lewisville City Council, do hereby proclaim the week of November 17th through 23, 2024 as Hunger and Homelessness Awareness Week in Lewisville, Texas, and encourage residents to volunteer and support local groups and nonprofits working to ensure access to necessities like food and housing. So, folks, what this means is we're in the season of giving, but it needs to be year-round. We tend to focus on November and December, but these organizations are working year-round, as is the city, to figure out how we deal with the massive influx of people that are driving housing costs up. They are driving all costs up. I mean, that's just, everybody wants to be here, and it's a supply and demand thing. I'm proud of our staff and our council. We've done more than I think anybody in Denton County to address the underlying systems of zoning and how we can better zone and provide housing opportunities, as well as lower some of that cost of housing access. We've won awards for that, and we've got some great things going on. In fact, we've got our accessory dwelling unit program, having some that are turnkey coming up. We've gotten a whole bunch of submittals for that, so I'm really excited about seeing how we can get more ADUs into the city. But again, duplexes, triplexes, being able to add that mixed housing component. There's a real gap between single family and like 16 to 18 unit apartment complexes. There's a middle there that can create affordable housing and create walkable neighborhoods and create opportunities for families to have housing options. And it takes time, but Lewisville's zoning and the way our council has addressed this has really placed us on the leading edge of being able to address it. Unfortunately, it takes time and it's not instant. The other piece I want to address on this, of course, is the food issue. And I wanted to let folks know that there'll be a shift in Denton County this coming year on January 1st. And I can talk about it. I know some of the partners really kind of aren't supposed to be getting too far out ahead of it. But we are moving, all of Denton County will be under the Tarrant Area Food Bank North. And so we are split currently. We're one of only 20 counties in the entire country that are split between two different food banks. So if you are used to giving to the North Texas Food Bank, wonderful organization. They've been our support for part of Lewisville for 42 years and CCA for 42 years. they are stepping back and Tarrant Area Food Bank North is stepping in. So if you're used to giving to North Texas Food Bank, you know, God love you, thank you, continue to give, but we'd ask that you consider shifting those funds to the Tarrant Area Food Bank North, because those will be more impactful for Lewisville and southern Denton County. So it's something to think about. But that's my 2 cents. I think this is really important, which is why I added more than my 2 cents. But I'd be more than happy if anybody would like to add.
Absolutely. So we are very excited to recognize Hunger and Homelessness Awareness Week here in Lewisville, and we want to thank some of our amazing partners who help do the work and are boots on the ground day to day in helping fight hunger and housing insecurity here in Denton County. So we want to recognize Charlie from Metro Relief, who works in street outreach for people experiencing homelessness here in Denton County, as well as Gilbert and Daphne from CCA, who help with housing and food insecurity both. So we want to thank our amazing partners for the work that they do and recognize them for being the players who make things happen here in Denton County. And the City of Lewisville staff was excited to be able to do our part for Hunger and Homelessness Awareness Week last week by doing our city staff food drive. Shout out to our ITS department for winning the donation competition. We're excited to take our steps forward in helping end food insecurity here in Denton County and Lewisville. So thank you so much.
Well, thank you, City Council. Thank you, Mayor, for raising this awareness, staff as well. At CCA, we see hunger and homelessness as a serious issue in Denton County. You heard the mayor mention the numbers, 114 individuals in Denton County. 34,000 of those are children. And so hunger is a serious issue that we see our families face every day. Texas, by the way, now ranks as the #1 state in the nation in this area in food insecurity. We surpassed the state of California earlier this year. And so hunger is a serious issue that our families face, and we appreciate the fact that this has brought some awareness to it. Anyone and everyone can do something about hunger. We recently had a 7-year-old boy who took it as a project to do a food drive in his neighborhood. And his mom brought him over with the results of the food drive. He collected a lot of pounds from his neighbors, and he just went around his neighborhood and did a food drive. So we can all take some type of action to help fight hunger. Thank you.
Thank you. Do you want to grab a photo? We
Chris is getting our photo.
There we go. Pretend you like each other.
Okay.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
You got it. Thank you. All right. Next up, I see my master naturalists. Y'all, they have the best swag. They really do. Y'all, would you mind coming on up? I got all these little pins. You got to ask them about the pins, because that's like a half an hour conversation for anyone who's got the lanyards with the pins. It's really awesome. And so this is actually, we're celebrating 25 years of the Master Naturalist Elm Fork chapter. So that is amazing and outstanding. We're really excited. So let me tell you a little bit about why we're doing this. So whereas the Texas Master Naturalist Elm Fork chapter is celebrating 25 years of dedicated service to the residents of Denton, Cook, and Wise counties, and whereas the mission of the Texas Master Naturalist Elm Fork program is to develop a core of well-informed volunteers committed to providing education, outreach, and service for the beneficial management of natural resources and natural areas within their communities throughout the state of Texas. And whereas since 1999, the members have contributed over 345,000 volunteer hours on more than 40 projects, including trail construction, habitat restoration, species monitoring, youth camps, educational programs, landowner consultation, and natural resource interpretation for communities. And whereas the Elm Fork chapter has been a vital partner in Lewisville's Vision 2025 plan, significantly advancing the city's goals to increase access to nature, conserve green spaces, and establish Lewisville as a leader in natural resource preservation and urban biodiversity. Now, therefore, I, T.J. Gilmore, Mayor of the City of Lewisville, and on behalf of the Lewisville City Council, do hereby recognize Texas Master Naturalist Elm Fork Chapter this Monday, November 18th, 2024, for 25 years of dedicated service, community engagement, and efforts to preserve our natural resources. in Lewisville, Texas, and urge all residents to observe the occasion with appropriate ceremonies and activities. Go plant a native plant. So thank you to the Elm Fork Master Naturalists. I am greatly appreciative of the personal education that this group has given to me over the last several years. They are amazing stewards and amazing educators, and hopefully the word continues to get out the way it has over the last few years. So I will gratefully give this microphone up to whomever would like to accept this.
I'll say a word.
Thanks, Catherine.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much. So our Elm Fork chapter serves Denton, Cook, and Wise counties. We have 270 members, and our mission is to steward our natural areas and our natural resources and to help teach others to do the same. And out of the 40 projects that Mayor Gilmore mentioned that we have, many of those are right here in Lewisville. And Lewisville has been a great partner. And just a fun fact, at our 25th anniversary celebration that's coming up in December, the Lewisville Parks and Recreation Department is going to be recognized as one of our great community partners, and so we are just thrilled to partner with them on many projects here in the great city of Lewisville. And with me are some of our superstar volunteers, Whit and Dale and Deb and Mary and Michelle, and they work on many of our projects in Lewisville and throughout our 3-county area.
Scoot in a little bit. We got some photos, I guess. Awesome. Thank you all. Appreciate it.
Very much.
I am going to need some help with my fall asters. They just did nothing this year, so.
Oh, you should go to the demonstration garden.
I know. All right, and Miranda Malloy. I have a certificate of recognition for this young lady, Miranda Malloy. She is NRPA's Young Professional Fellowship Award winner this year. The Lewisville City Council would like to commend Miranda on receiving the National Recreation and Park Association's Young Professional Fellowship. This prestigious fellowship provided Miranda with an invaluable opportunity to explore NRPA's operations and leadership structures during the NRPA annual conference held October 8th through 10th, 2024 in Atlanta, Georgia. As part of the fellowship, Miranda was matched with a mentor, engaged in a variety of conference sessions and meetings, and was formally recognized at the Best of the Best Awards ceremony. The program aims to inspire future leaders within NRPA and foster valuable professional connections. This accomplishment reflects Miranda's exceptional dedication to professional growth and her contributions to Parks and Recreation's field. T.J. Gilmore, Mayor of Lewisville, on behalf of the City Council, extend a congratulations to Miranda Malloy on this well-deserved honor. Great job. Would you like to say anything?
Thank you so much. It's an honor to not only receive this award, but to bring it home for Lewisville. One thing that maybe we didn't highlight, but it's a huge kind of mind-boggling thing is there were 2 of us from Texas that won out of the entire world. So this is an international kind of agency. So this is a really big win for Texas. So, I know there's some things that Texas needs to work on, but in recreation, we should be leading the charge as all of us really, really care. So I'm so honored to bring this home and work in a city as beautiful as Lewisville. And I dedicate my award and all that I do for my children, Ellie, Matt, Selena, and my son Sebastian, who's up in heaven watching over us. So I'm so grateful to be a steward of this department and here with y'all. So thank you so much.
I think I broke anything. All right, moving on. Item D1, public hearing. Consideration of an ordinance granting a special use permit for a gasoline service station on 10.5078 acres legally described as Lot 41R, Block C, Valley Ridge Business Park West, Zone General Business, and located at 751 West Main Street, as requested by Ryan Alvarez, Kimley Horn and Associates, on behalf of Walmart Stores number 18-6381, the property owner. Case number 24-05-6-SUP. Sam's Club is proposing to add 2 new fuel dispensers to the existing gasoline service station located on the southeast portion of the property. The Planning and Zoning Commission recommended unanimous approval 7-0 on October 15th, 2024, and it is recommended that the City Council approve the ordinance as set forth in the caption above. We do have Mr. Richard Lutke, our Planning Director, available for questions, and we do have Ryan Alvarez from Kimley Horn to present a traffic circulation map during the public hearing. We now have, a public hearing is now open, and Mr. Alvarez, if you wouldn't mind, name and address for the record.
Good evening, council members. Ryan Alvarez, Kimley Horn Associates. Address is going to be 110 West Town and Country, actually out in California. Made the trip out tonight. Thank you. Up on the screen, you're going to see a circulation exhibit. Both currently on the screen here is the existing circulation on site. The proposed project is adding fuel dispensers to the plan left of the existing canopy area. So just keep in mind when I show the next screen, kind of the existing traffic flow on site, most of it coming in from the south, routing up along the front of the store or along the south side of the existing canopy. I think as you guys can see here, along the south side, there's actually kind of a bit of a conflict between the blue and the red arrows, where we both have traffic incoming and the traffic leaving the fuel station. So part of the solution that we're proposing with the expansion is to kind of clean up some of that traffic there, potential for collisions, and just make overall circulation a little bit smoother. Perfect, thank you. So here we have the proposed condition. The whiteout area is just to keep a clean look of what that proposed expansion will look like. So now we have 2 additional pumps on the left side of the existing canopy. We turned that south driveway to an exit only. Previously it was an exit and an entrance, so you had cars going both ways there. Everywhere else on site, the circulation has stayed the same, allowing cars to enter from the north and then smoothly exit along the south. From a traffic perspective, adding the 2 additional pumps, because this is an existing use, does not necessarily generate more trips to the fuel station. Sam's idea and what they're rolling out across all of Texas as well as the United States is adding additional pumps to help alleviate the existing queuing on site. So it gives cars more options to go to get their fuel, obviously at a discounted rate as well. That's a quick run through of all the kind of traffic, queuing, and the proposed project. Happy to answer any other questions, and thank you for your time.
I guess a question, what kind of signs are going to be there? Because that place obviously is a mess right now. So are you going to have larger signs so people can understand that new traffic flow?
Yeah, so we'll have additional signage on the south side because that'll be the biggest change for customers that we're used to maybe going in along the south side there. Sam's is also utilizing fuel attendants to help direct traffic a little bit smoother. So if there's a pump that's open ahead of another car, they'll be utilizing them to get cars in and out a little bit quicker.
You almost want to do those one-way spikes there, just to, no, a little over the top. Okay. Yeah, I mean, hopefully that helps smooth this out because it is a really challenging part of that parking lot.
I had a question. I really appreciate the idea of trying to, because that intersection there where there's the crossing traffic, I've seen some near misses there, quite a few actually. It is quite crazy there. So I appreciate the attempt to try to contain that and control it a little bit better. I am still worried that people are still going to be going on that red line coming north. Is that north? That they're still going to, because that curb is still so far back, that they're still going to try to take that right in. What is these travel lanes through here that are the one ways? How wide are those?
Yeah, so the existing queuing lanes are going to stay the same width. Those are always 12 feet. And then the one on the left side of the proposed expansion is going to be closer to 18 to 20 feet. I forget the dimension off the top of my head, but it is quite wider than the rest of it. The reason we're not able to pull the curb all the way out is we still do have to provide access to the fuel delivery truck that exits out through there. And that turn is just a little steep for them to get out.
Okay, yeah, I mean, I assumed it had something to do with a truck. I just worried that the access lanes on the outside, if those are both 18 to 20 feet, I would want to make sure that they're very well, that we have a lot of signage out there, because that's going to be wide enough to where people are going to think that's a two-way. So just signing it as much as possible so that they understand you're going the wrong way.
Understood. Yeah, we'll have signs on both sides, including the striped area, and then there'll be striped pavement as well for a do not enter and do not block.
And we're not completely opposed to the spikes, I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Do like Buc-ee's, they have a sign for every car in the lot, just about no trucks in here, that kind of thing. But yeah. Other questions, comments? Mr. Alvarez, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Council, I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
Move to close the public hearing.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Council, please vote. If they did vote, I can't see it. There we go. Motion passes 6-0. Thank you, Council. Council, I'll entertain a motion to approve the ordinance.
Okay, move to approve the ordinance as set forth in the caption.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. City Attorney?
This is an ordinance of the Lewisville City Council amending the zoning ordinance by granting a special use permit for a gasoline service station on 10.5078 acres, legally described as Valley Ridge Business Park West, Lot 4-R1R, Block C, located at 751 West Main Street and zoned General Business GB District, providing for a repealer, severability penalty and effective date, and declaring an emergency.
Council, if you'd please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Public hearing D2, consideration of an ordinance granting a zone change from agricultural open space district to light industrial district on 4.909 acres out of the P. Higgins Survey, abstract 525, located at 610 Holford Prairie Road, as requested by Ali Reza Ravjani, the property owner, 24-08-8-Z. The subject property is located on the west side of Holford's Prairie Road, approximately 72 feet north of Oak Tree Lane. The property owner wishes to rezone the property to light industrial to facilitate a future office warehouse development. The Planning and Zoning Commission recommended unanimous 7-0 approval on October 15th, 2024, and it is recommended that the City Council approve the ordinance as set forth in the caption above. Mr. Richard Lutke, our Planning Director, is available for questions, and the public hearing is now open. I do not have any comment cards. There are no additional comments or questions from council. I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
Actually, I do have a comment. Because I do think it's worth mentioning, anytime we're rezoning an AO that is adjacent to some residential, I do think it's worth mentioning that this area is highly industrial. And there are some AO and some, I guess, legal non-conforming uses there right now for some residential. But the long-term plan is for this to continue to convert over to LI, which is why this is, in my mind, an appropriate action to take. So with that, I'll move to close the public hearing.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Council, if you please vote. Motion to close the public hearing passes unanimously. I'll entertain a motion to approve the ordinance.
Move to approve the ordinance.
Second.
I have a motion to approve and a second. City Attorney?
This is an ordinance of the Lewisville City Council amending the zoning ordinance by rezoning approximately 4.909 acres of land out of the P. Higgins Survey, abstract number 525, located at 610 Holford's Prairie Road, from agriculture, open space, AO district zoning to light industrial, LI district zoning, correcting the official zoning map, preserving all of the portions of the zoning ordinance, determining that the zoning amendment herein made promotes the health, safety, and general welfare of the city, providing for a repealer, severability, a penalty, and an effective date, and declaring an emergency.
Council, if you please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Item E, Visitor Citizens Forum. Speakers must address their comments to the mayor rather than the individual council members or staff. Speakers should speak clearly and state their name and address prior to beginning their remarks. Speakers will be allowed 5 minutes for testimony. Speakers making personal, impertinent, profane, or slanderous remarks may be removed from the meeting. Unauthorized remarks from the audience, stamping of feet, whistles, yells, clapping, and similar demonstrations will not be permitted. In accordance with Texas Open Meetings Act, the City Council is restricted from discussing or taking action on items not listed on the agenda. Action can only be taken at a future meeting. I have no comments for Visitor Citizens Forum, so we will go ahead and move on to the consent agenda, item F. All the following items on the consent agenda are considered to be self-explanatory by the council and will be enacted with one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a council member or citizen so requests. For a citizen to request removal of an item, a speaker card or e-comment must be filled out and submitted to the city secretary. I am requesting that item F6 be pulled from the consent agenda. I will entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda with the exception of item number F6.
Move to approve the consent agenda with the exception of item F6.
Second. I have a motion and a second. Council, please vote. Consent agenda passes 6-0. I'm going to go ahead and abstain. Councilmember Kelly? Mayor Pro Tem?
Item F6, approval of an economic development agreement between the City of Lewisville and Old Town Craft LLC, and authorization for the city manager or her designee to execute the agreement. Old Town Craft LLC company wishes to lease city-owned property located at 206 West Main Street and 207 Elm Street, collectively referred to as property, for a term of up to 7 years with a right of first refusal to purchase the property. The company is proposing to invest a minimum of $800,000 into redevelopment of the property and operate a tap room, beer garden, cocktail bar, and food truck park with a minimum of 3 food trucks. The company has experience operating many similar businesses in Denton, such as Eastside Denton, Miss Angeline's, and Oak Street Draft House, as well as in Dallas and Florida. As consideration for redevelopment and activation of the property, the proposed agreement includes 1, a waiver of all building permit fees associated with the project, 2, a grant equal to 100% of the water and sanitary sewer impact fees paid to the city for the project, 3, a grant of up to 50% of the tenant and/or facade improvement costs for both buildings with a maximum grant amount of $80,000. So I'm going to say that again. With a maximum grant amount of $80,000. 4, a grant of up to 50% of the cost of a mural on the 207 Elm building with a maximum grant amount of $40,000. And 5, a grant not to exceed $75,000 related to planting a minimum of 5 mature trees on the property. Funding is available from the utility fund, the Old Town Facade Capital Project, tree migration, and tax increment reinvestment zone number 1. So recommendation, the city staff's recommendation is that the city council approve the agreement and authorize the city manager or her designee to execute the agreement as set forth in caption above.
Move to approve the agreement and authorize the city manager or her designee to execute the agreement as set forth in the caption.
Do you have a second?
Second.
Please vote. Motion passes 6-0. I'm done mayoring for now. So
Okay.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem.
Mayor, before you read this item, I'm also going to recuse myself from this one as well.
For item G8, regular hearing. Item G8 is a regular hearing, consideration of a bid award for construction services for West College Street paving and utilities and Mill Street parking to Axis Contracting Incorporated, Forney, Texas, in the amount of $5,638,376.30, and authorization for the city manager or her designee to execute the contract. The project includes construction of new street paving on West College Street from Mill Street to Cowan Avenue, sidewalk improvements from Mill Street to Wayne Frady Park, new public utilities and street calming features, including landscape bump outs. The project also includes back-end parking on Mill Street across from Watley Avenue. A total of 89 bid invitations were downloaded from Bonfire. 7 bids were received and opened on September 5th, 2024. After evaluation of the bids, staff recommends Axis Incorporated as the lowest responsible bidder. Funding is available in the West College Street Capital Project. It's recommended that the City Council approve the bid award and authorize the city manager or her designee to execute the contract as set forth in the caption above.
Mr. Mayor, I move to approve the bid award and authorize the city manager or her designee to execute the contract as set forth in the caption.
Do I have a second? Second. Thank you. Council, if you'd please vote. Motion passes 5-0. Mayor Pro Tem, we are now at reports. Would you mind if we started with you, sir?
Thank you, Mayor. So I guess probably just first off, great conference for NLC for those who joined us in Tampa. It was fantastic, learned lots of great stuff. And staff knows because I pepper everybody when I'm down there with those types of things, saying, what about this, what about that? So I appreciate your patience as I kind of give you a little laundry list to work through. I do want to take a minute to call specifically David Solomon. We had a stoplight on Josie Avenue that came to my attention was malfunctioning. I think I put that in at like 6 a.m. on a Sunday morning, and David responded back by like 9 a.m. I was in my little coffee shop this morning, and somebody came in who hadn't seen the update to Facebook and said, Patrick, what about that stoplight? I got a concern about this. I said, it's already handled, and I gave him the rundown. But David, thank you so much for being above and beyond, and that turnaround time was not expected but appreciated. Thank you so much.
Councilmember Green?
I have nothing to report other than to just tell everyone have a happy Thanksgiving and safe travels if you are traveling.
Councilmember Jones?
Sure. A couple things. This weekend I was able to attend and present a proclamation to the Association of Chinese Professionals. I was there with Mayor Madison and a few other people who offer proclamations as well. It was a very fun event. I was very happy to meet some new friends. And I did offer them our economic development people because Addison was trying to push their ware, so I did the same. Also, the city has launched the My Lewisville customer service bot. If you've seen the post on Facebook today or some comments on the freaky look of
the terrifying
the baby robot. I mean, some people might have some flashbacks from the past, but it is a great application. We want you to use it to help it learn and become more efficient. That's all I have.
Thank you, sir.
Mayor,
yes.
I actually forgot something that I would also like to have a shout out really quickly to the park staff. Not this past weekend, the weekend before, we had a lacrosse tournament at Railroad Park, and we had some rain that week, and I think the last tournament that we had at Railroad Park ended up getting rained out as well. I mean, the parks, I don't know what they did. I think they were out there with sponges and blowers, and they made it happen. They figured out how to make it happen. And I know that they got out there really early and they were working it hard. But the whole tournament went forward as planned. And I just wanted to say thank you to our parks guys for going above and beyond for that.
Thank you.
I have no reports other than National League of Cities. It was a great trip this year. And I'm waiting for the one that's going to be in Honolulu, actually.
Yeah, I imagine you're going to wait a while for that one.
It's going to be, yeah, it'll be in, I think, 2045.
Somewhere in there.
Yeah, something like that. But I think that our staff, through all of the departments, I will have to say that we have some of the best staff in the country.
Thank you. Councilmember Meredith.
Yeah, I've got some library activities for the week. Family craft night for families with children of all ages, Monday, November 18th. Today, 5:30 to 7, Bennett Program Room, no registration or ticket required. Monday night movie club for adults, Monday, November 18th, 6:30 to 7:30, Crawford Meeting Room. and puzzle piece ornaments for adults Thursday, November 21st, 6 to 7:30, Friday, November 22nd, 2:30 to 4, Crawford Meeting Room. Registration is required. That's all I've got.
Councilmember Troyer?
Yes, first of all, I too want to express appreciation for the opportunity to go to the NLC City Summit this past week. It was a great conference. And as with TML every year, I learned that we have a really good here in Lewisville, Texas, compared to other cities in Texas, some of the other cities in Texas. NLC confirmed that for the country as a whole. So talking to other city officials, sometimes it's just amazing what we have here. We sometimes don't appreciate it. But beyond that, I do have some events at Lewisville Grand Theater for the next week or so. First of all, unforgettable, mesmerizing moments performed by Ballet Papillon on November 22nd and 23rd. Will Hearn's Grand Old Christmas Show presented by the City of Lewisville on December 7th. And every Friday evening, acoustic jam sessions presented by the Visual Art League of Lewisville. And there are several exhibitions going on right now. First of all, Pivot, presented by second-year MFA students at UNT. That is going through November 30th. New Members Exhibition, presented by the Visual Art League of Lewisville through November 30th. And Small Gifts, presented by the Visual Art League of Lewisville, November 19th through the 27th. And that is my report.
Thank you, sir. City Attorney? City Secretary?
No report, Mayor.
No report, Mayor.
In there?
I have one report, Mayor.
What do we got?
So this Wednesday, we have the last installment of the Lewisville Business Connection Series in partnership with the Lewisville Area Chamber of Commerce. It is a legislative review, so we will hear from our partners at North Texas Commission on key issues our legislators will be addressing in the upcoming legislative session. It is, again, this Wednesday, 8:30 a.m. to 10 a.m., and it is free, so we just ask that you RSVP.
And where's it located?
At the Lewisville Area Chamber of Commerce, 551 North Valley Parkway.
Great. Thank you so much, Marshall. No report. No report. Anything? Nothing?
I do just have the lake report. We are just under 86% full at 518.96 feet.
All right. Hopefully we'll get some more rain. Jim? No? No, Chief? Quiet over there. City Manager? Nothing? Just a couple of quick things. Thanksgiving is right around the corner. I would encourage everybody, if you're feeling a little down, disconnected, not part of a local community, find an opportunity to volunteer. There are a tremendous number of them. You can reach out to City Hall. You can reach out to any of your city council. We can help get you connected if you're feeling the need to find a way to give back to the community this holiday season. I also wanted to just let everybody know that I have a screech owl that is living in my owl house in my backyard, so I'm very excited about that. And that is all that I have. We are going to go ahead and move into closed session in accordance with Texas Government Code Subchapter D, Section 551.071, consultation with attorney, legal issues related to supplemental use regulations for manufacturing light intensity, manufacturing medium intensity, manufacturing heavy intensity, and warehouse distribution facility uses. Section 551.072, real estate property acquisition, and Section 551.087, economic development deliberation regarding economic development negotiations. We are adjourned into closed session. All right, we're going to be back in a regular session. As there is no further action to be taken on tonight's agenda, we stand adjourned, and it is 8:50.